What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. I'm Mike Tagliere, obviously here to answer your questions today. If you guys were here last year, you guys know how this works, right? I talked through a few things, and we're going to do it a little bit different this year. I'm at the beginning for about 10 to 15 minutes. I'm probably just going to talk about the players who are inactive, the players who are questionable, how it affects how I would rank them, because those are the guys that are going to be asked. There's going to be a lot of questions asked about those guys. So I do want to let you guys know. I just posted it on Twitter. If you guys have not seen this feature yet, we have put up a new thing. So if you guys like Red Zone, you guys like watching Red Zone, it's obviously a beautiful thing. We've kind of done that for your fantasy team, for like your own fantasy team. So you go to fantasypros.com/NFL/game day. And what happens is it looks at your lineups and it only gives you the feed basically on your players as things are happening. If your player catches a pass, it's going to show up in your feed and it's going to continually update. So you can watch that with Red Zone. You can watch that with your favorite team, whatever you want to do. We just wanted to make sure you guys knew about that. It's an awesome feature we have that many people don't know about. So we're trying to let you guys know. So we're going to be going through some of the names that are questionable for today's games, some of the weather things, and basically just getting as many questions as we can. So let's start there. Number one is Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack has been dealing with a soft tissue injury throughout the majority of the preseason. He obviously hasn't practiced very much, and the Colts have said that they're not expecting him to play today. If he does play, he's going to be extremely limited. So basically what this means is Jordan Wilkins is going to be considered the starter, in quotes. I still believe there's going to be a mix of Kristen Michael and Nyheim Hines in the backfield, but Jordan Wilkins should be good for 12 to 15 touches against the Bengals, who are without Vontaze Burfict. So it's a better matchup than it typically would be. The Colts are at home. They're favorites. There's some things to like about this matchup. Jordan Wilkins didn't necessarily look impressive in the preseason, but he's worth a flex start this week, absolutely. Going down to James Conner. This is the biggest one of the week. James Conner, obviously with Le'Veon Bell not showing up with the team. James Conner is going to get the start. And what is there to like about the start, okay? Let's start with the things that we don't like. We don't like the fact that it's the Browns. The Browns last year allowed 3.3 yards per carry. That was with Jabril Peppers playing out of position. He's actually moved to strong safety this year, which is where he should be. So their defense is pretty stacked. Their front seven is really good. They're going to get after the quarterback. However, the good news is that James Conner is the starter. He's the clear-cut starter. There's no competition there. It's also a messy game. You know, it's not going to be crazy winds like they were talking about. It seems like it's going to be around 18 to 22 mile an hour winds, so it will affect the passing games. That's going to lead to some more run volume. Ben Roethlisberger on the road hasn't been very good over the last 5 years, so that's a plus. They usually Le'Veon Bell has actually averaged more fantasy points per game on the road, and then the game has rain, right? So there's expected to be. It's not as much rain as people were expecting. By the way, guys, don't ever look at weather before Sunday because it's hard to tell. But today, basically, they're saying maybe an inch of rain. It's not like crazy all out, but James Conner is that guy that's hard to tackle. So I would play him as a strong RB2. I feel like he's going to get the volume to live up with a high floor, and obviously, the ceiling that he presents being in the Steelers' offense. All right, moving down to the next one, Sony Michel. Unfortunately, as you guys may have heard already, Sony Michel is not expected to play today. That's obviously a downer for me because I'm a huge Sony Michel fan. But some players that you can kind of pick up, we're going to go through those as we get through the show because you guys are probably going to ask me some players that can be added. I think that Bruce Ellington of the Texans, I think he's someone that can be played. I'll talk about that in a minute. If you're in a PPR league, Danny Amendola can fill a flex spot because he's in a really good spot today. There's some options that we're going to talk about. I'm sure there's people going to ask questions about them, but Sony Michel, be prepared to take him out of your lineup. It's just not a safe play. Going next, Austin Seferian-Jenkins. I have not heard official word on him yet. He suffered a core injury that caused him to miss practice earlier in the week. They said that they need him to get back into practice. They don't know if he's going to be able to play. It's up in the air. And guys, by the way, the inactives start coming out usually around 10:30 my time, 11:30 Eastern. So we should get news on some of these things as the games approach here. And I'll try and break those to you guys as I hear them because I do have alerts set up to bring you guys up to speed. But Seferian-Jenkins, as of now, I'd be really cautious about putting him in lineups, even though it is a great matchup. Next one, Devontae Parker. He is not going to play today. Get him out of fantasy lineups. It was going to be always a risky start to begin with. The matchup isn't great against Tennessee. And for those thinking that Kenny Stills is all of a sudden going to get so many more targets, don't expect that. If you look at the splits of Kenny Stills with and without Devontae Parker in the lineup, it really didn't change very much. He has a role on the team, and they're going to stick to that. So Devontae Parker out. Doug Baldwin. Doug Baldwin has been practicing. Doug Baldwin is going to be active for this game, but Doug Baldwin also has a very, very tough matchup against Chris Harris Jr., who happens to be the best slot cornerback in football. The game is in Denver. We expect Denver to win this game against the Seahawks defense that is pretty lacking. So Doug Baldwin, as much as I love the player, because I really do, and I think he's fine, I don't think that this knee injury is anything to worry about for fantasy owners. I think it was literally they were giving him veteran time off. I do believe he's going to be fine, but this week is not one to get excited about him. Obviously, if you have him on your team, you're probably going to start him just because I wouldn't put him outside the top 30 wide receivers or anything. But in DFS, it's a week to stay away from Doug Baldwin. Jamison Crowder dealing with some sort of groin injury. This is not good, guys. I mean, last year, if you go through Jamison Crowder, what he did at the start of last season, he really struggled out of the gate, and he had a hamstring injury that they were trying to keep on hush. He's missed some practice time. It's difficult for me to love Jamison Crowder, even though the matchup isn't bad against Arizona. Budda Baker, I don't know if they're going to have him come down into coverage to cover the slot. I don't know what they're doing there, but I'm hesitant about playing Jamison Crowder. So if I have another option like a Keelan Cole or a Kenny Stills, I might play them over Crowder this week just because I want to make sure he's healthy before I stick him into lineups. Because we saw last year, if he's not 100%, might not end well. All right, so by the way, Austin Carr, I'm going to mention this. It's not in the feed here, but Austin Carr is mentioned. They're mentioning he's going to start in the slot for the Saints over Cameron Meredith, which is obviously pretty big news. So just so you guys know, Austin Carr is a name to keep on like the radar, like down low. All right, next name, Vance McDonald. It has been announced that he is out for this game, which is obviously not good for him. He missed a lot of the preseason with, they're saying it's a foot injury. There hasn't been much detail on this, but we do know that he's out for the game. If you're looking for like a last-ditch streamer, like let's say that your waiver wire is bare right now, I think Jesse James is like an interesting one. He works over the middle of the field, obviously. If there's going to be wind, if there's going to be rain, they're not going to be taking shots like 30 or 40 yards down the field. So Jesse James is not like the worst streaming option, but I think you could do better. A guy like Nick Vannett. If you guys are looking for a streamer that I really like this week, it's Nick Vannett against the Broncos. Will Fuller, and this one actually popped up literally just this morning where Bill O'Brien said that they did put Will Fuller on the team flight. They wanted to see if his hamstring was holding up. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury. And guys, this has been the story with Will Fuller. And it's actually just been announced that he's out for week 1. So if you guys have Will Fuller in your lineups, get him out of there. It's also the reason I told you that Bruce Ellington is a decent flex option this week if you're in like desperation mode. If you like, let's say Sony Michel's out, you had him. Let's say Will Fuller's out, you had him, and you're like, what do I do here? There's nobody on the waiver wire. I guarantee you that Bruce Ellington's on your waiver wire. Danny Amendola might be there too. And these guys in a PPR format are solid plays to give you a high floor. You're not going to find like a high ceiling guy on waiver wire. That's just not going to happen right now outside of like a long touchdown that we cannot project. So Will Fuller out, get him out of lineups. So guys, we're going to start the Q&A here. So basically I want to let you know that it's a little bit different. I have the chat set up and I understand that a lot of you guys have posted questions already, and I'm just going to have to start here where I'm at. So I'm just going to start with the questions. I'm going to get through as many as I possibly can. So let's just get started. All right. Trey Burton or Greg Olsen, full PPR. I'm playing Trey Burton this week in his first game with the Bears against the Packers. Packers are down 2 of their top 3 linebackers. They did trade for one. There's some questions over the middle of the field. We know Trey Burton's going to be involved. Greg Olsen was put on the injury report this week with a back injury. So like run out there and make sure you have to have Greg Olsen in your lineup or anything. I'd play Trey Burton. Jalen Samuels worth an ad with Le'Veon out. I mean, he's worth an ad in deeper leagues. I don't think you need to go crazy, but I do think he's worth an ad if you have an extra spot on your bench. I just wouldn't drop guys like Anthony Miller or Geronimo Allison to pick him up. Basically, in order for Jalen Samuels to be added to your roster, I think you need to play in at least a 12-team league, and I think you need to have at least 8 bench spots. But right now, I'm not going crazy for him. Hey, thanks, Richard. I see your message there. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. We're here for you guys, and we appreciate you as well. All right, let's see. Doug Baldwin or Alex Collins in a PPR flex. Alex Collins. I'm playing. If you guys have Alex Collins, put him in your roster this week. So the Ravens, they are saying that that they're expecting rain there. I know they've talked about putting Lamar Jackson in there on the goal line. This is not a week to get cute. They don't need to. The Buffalo Bills are a bottom 5 run defense in the NFL. They didn't get any better this offseason. So, yeah, Alex Collins is like a must play for me, whereas Doug Baldwin is like, I'm not crazy about him. I actually have no issue playing Alex Collins in cash game DFS lineups if you want to. All right, let's see. Think Mac will play. Mac is going to play. But the thing is, we don't know if he's going to play like every down. I don't think he's going to. He's only been with the team for a week. I think he's going to be on passing downs for sure. They might mix him in on a little bit in first and second down, but I do think Mac will play. Drop one for a kicker. Ronald Jones or Aaron Jones? Whoo! I mean, I guess I'm going to say Ronald Jones because they dropped him to third on the depth chart. I mean, I still think he's second in terms of who would be the starter because they're not going to start Jaquiz Rodgers. But Ronald Jones is in the doghouse right now. I don't see him getting out anytime soon. At the end of the year, like once we get to the second half of the season, I think Ronald Jones will eventually work his way in the starters. But Aaron Jones is like the lottery ticket because if something happens to Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones is like going to be a phenomenal pickup. Latavius or Gillislee in a 12-team standard scoring. I would take my chance on Gillislee, honestly. And the reason I say that is just because I know that they brought Jonathan Williams back onto the active roster, but they cut him. There was no guarantee that Jonathan Williams was going to make it back to them. So they didn't really care about Jonathan Williams. He was cut by the Bills a couple of years ago. So many people are high on him. I'm not that guy. I think Mike Gillislee's a fine running back. I think that people just kind of they put him in the dumpster after Bill Belichick did. But as for Latavius, they're both very touchdown dependent options. And Dalvin Cook, they say, is not going to be limited today. He's not going to be on a snap count or anything. So I'll go Gillislee, but they're both in the same territory. Wide receiver 2, standard, Allen Robinson, Jarvis Landry, or Corey Davis. I currently have Allen Robinson as the highest ranked one. Jarvis Landry playing in the rain and the wind game. I just don't see them attempting very many passes. And honestly, you can beat Pittsburgh on the ground. Once Ryan Shazier went down last year, they weren't as good against the run, and they really didn't change anything that would significantly make me feel like they're going to be much better. So I like Robinson over Landry, and then Corey Davis matching up with Xavier Howard against Miami. Xavier Howard over the final, I think, 4 or 5 weeks of the season, he was really freaking good. And they said throughout training camp that Xavier Howard has looked like a legit superstar. So, I mean, I like Corey Davis. I think he can get something done there. But Allen Robinson, I'm going to go with him. I know it's his first game with the Bears. I know there's a lot of unknowns there. But the matchups, he's probably going to see Kevin King the most. Kevin King was okay as a rookie, but he wasn't like elite. He wasn't a shutdown cornerback or anything. And Robinson hasn't had any setbacks. So I'm going to trust Robinson there in what should be a very high-scoring game, by the way. All right, Nick Vannett or Tyler Eifert. I don't know if I just passed over anything. Sorry, these things are bouncing around. Nick Vannett or Tyler Eifert. Whew, that's a tough one. I do have Nick Vannett ranked slightly higher. I think that they're both in the same territory, though, because Tyler Eifert, I mean, I don't know if he's ever going to be the same player again. I really don't. And the Colts, the issue with the Colts is that they don't have their linebacking core. I've talked about this in the primer. I talked about it in the podcast. Their entire linebacking core on the roster has started 7 NFL games. So they have no experience. But the question is, do they bring Clayton Geathers down to cover Tyler Eifert? They might do that. And Geathers, when he's been healthy, has been a pretty good safety. So I would go with Vannett, but it's really close. Like, I wouldn't fault you if you wanted to go with Eifert there. All right, so I'm going to pick up a random question here and there. Anthony Miller, Danny Amendola. I think they're similar territory. I think Anthony Miller gives you more upside. Like if you're looking for a ceiling, let's say you got off to a rough start, and you need a ceiling, I think Anthony Miller's the play. If you're looking for a safer floor, I think Amendola is probably the safer floor this week. Against Tennessee, Logan Ryan in the slot, he has the best matchup of the Miami wide receivers. So I think Danny Amendola's floor this week is probably like 5 catches, 50 yards, or 5 catches. No, yeah, that's about right. But Anthony Miller, there's so much unknown there, right? I think that he actually could have a really big game, but there's a lot of risk there. So if you're looking for upside, Anthony Miller. If you're looking for safety, Amendola. Crowell or Wilkins? I would play Wilkins, provided that Mac is out. We don't have official word on that just yet, but I do believe that Mac is going to be out for this game. So I would play Wilkins with a guaranteed 12 to 15 touches in a better matchup because Crowell against the Lions, I mean, he's the second running back in that team. Bilal Powell is the starter. And I mean, that's how it worked in the preseason. Bilal Powell looked a lot better. If they fall behind, Crowell is not. Yes, he can catch passes, but he's not their third down back. So I would go with Wilkins here. Rank McCoy, Burkhead, Robbie Anderson, or Goodwin, full PPR. In a full PPR, that's tough. I would probably say McCoy, Burkhead. Man, I'll go Goodwin, Anderson. You see McCoy, well, I don't like him very much this week. In PPR leagues, he should rack up some receptions. Nathan Peterman's going to play it safe. He needs to because he's really obviously the first NFL start he had. He threw 5 interceptions. Against the Ravens, it's not a pretty matchup either, but McCoy should be involved in the passing game. Burkhead, With Sony Michel inactive, it makes me feel better about him for sure. And again, they were talking about just managing his reps throughout the preseason. Apparently, he's dealing with this knee thing. I don't know. If there was something that needed to be done with Rex Burkhead's knee, I think they would have done what they did with Sony Michel and get it taken care of. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot. There's some volatility there for sure. But give me the guaranteed touches. Good win against Rhodes, Xavier Rhodes against. So Rhodes missed some practice time. They said that he was questionable, I think, with a hamstring injury. If Rhodes is not 100%, Marquise Goodwin can burn him down the field, and that's all you need is one play out of Goodwin. So I like him. Robbie Anderson matched up with Darius Slay. It's a tough matchup. All right, let's see. Bouncing down. Goodwin or Galladay? Goodwin, 100%. Like, guys, don't play Galladay yet. Please don't do that. He's like a touchdown or bust, and I don't like guys like that. Corey Davis or Josh Gordon in PPR? Man, I probably would have said Josh Gordon before this whole weather thing came up. And I think the weather is enough of a factor that I would say that Josh Gordon is probably lowering down my board just a little bit. I'll take Corey Davis. It's a tough matchup. It's more tough than people actually think. But I'll go with Corey Davis over Josh Gordon this week just because of that weather concern. If it is raining, it's going to affect the passing game. That's going to happen. If there's 20-mile-an-hour winds and it's raining, it's going to affect the passing game. So, all right, Standard League, Cooper Kupp or Devin Funchess. I would go Cooper Kupp here. So the Rams are favored, I think, by 4 on the road in Oakland, but the over-under in that game is like massive. It's like 49.5 points. That's massive, guys. Like, that's one of the highest totals of the week. It might actually be even tied for the highest total of the week. So they obviously think they're going to score some touchdowns here. The Raiders secondary is not very good. Their safeties are backups essentially because they're not even starting Carl Joseph, who everybody expected them to start. There's a lot of question marks in that Oakland team. So I'd go a Kupp there. Funchess is, God, there's just too many targets there in Carolina now. All right, Connor or Howard in Standard. I know everybody likes James Conner, and I do too, but I'm playing Jordan Howard there. Like, again, that game against Green Bay, that should be a high-scoring affair. When you think about the fact that Roquan Smith and Khalil Mack might not be on the field for like every snap, Aaron Rodgers might have his way with the team. And then when you think about the Bears and you think about nobody has seen the Matt Nagy offense with the Bears pieces, it's pretty difficult to game plan against them because you don't know what they're going to do, right? I think that's going to be a high-scoring game on tonight. So yeah, I would definitely look to start your Bears Packers if you can. All right, so Hyde over Miller this week due to weather. Yeah, I actually have Hyde a couple spots higher than Miller. It's really close though, because like Miller's interesting. Like, he's always that guy that it's like you can guarantee for 60 to 80 yards, but if he doesn't score, he's usually like an RB3, and that's kind of how you feel about him most weeks. But the thing is, Carlos Hyde, with the weather the way it is and Pittsburgh's run defense not like a strength of theirs, with a new safety duo that they have there, they're starting 2 brand new safeties. There's a lot of question marks with that Steelers secondary. So I would actually go Carlos Hyde over Lamar Miller. I think they both should be played, arguably, but I do have Hyde just a little bit higher. All right. Okay. Working my way down. PPR flex, Lamar Miller, James Conner, or Jamal Williams. Okay, so I would play James Conner and Jamal Williams over Lamar Miller, but the question becomes, do you start James Conner or Jamal Williams? This is really tough. I want to say Jamal Williams, but James Conner is like tough to pass up, right? Whew. I said you have to start the Bears and Packers, right? So I think I'm going to go Jamal Williams here. It's close between him and Conner, though, man. That's really tough. All right, we're getting there. Goodwin or Kenyon Drake play flex play standard? I would play Kenyon Drake. Usually so by the way, guys, when you guys have a question of a running back and a wide receiver, I'm typically going to side with the running back unless there's like a clear tier difference between the two, because I'll always take guaranteed touches, and especially in like a standard format. It's difficult for me to love Godwin over Drake, even if he is in a timeshare, he's going to see, 13 to 16 touches. I happen to think that Kenyon Drake's going to see more than that. It's a tough matchup for him, no doubt. Like, the Tennessee Titans are so underrated when it comes to the run, but he is their best receiver out of the backfield too. So I do think that Drake should see, 15 touches, 16 touches in this game. So I'd play him over Goodwin and kind of eliminate some of the risk from your lineup. Cooper Kupp, Josh Gordon, or Randall Cobb, full PPR. That's where I start thinking about Josh Gordon over Cooper Kupp. It's really close considering it's PPR, because I do think that Kupp will haul in more receptions. But I'll take Josh Gordon. It's tough, but this is the last I heard, is that the rain isn't going to be crazy, but there is going to be 18 to 22 mile an hour winds. I don't know, man. It's so tough. that's the weather thing has got me all jacked up. But I'd probably go Gordon there, but it's close. All right, let's see. Aaron Jones. All right, need to drop 2. Aaron Jones, James Conner, Alfred Morris, Kelvin Benjamin, or Sterling Shepard. If I had to drop, I mean, Kelvin Benjamin, if you're not starting him, I guess you could drop him. He's like the type of guy that I like to have on my team if you have deep starting rosters. Like if you're starting 3 wide receivers and 2 or 3 flex, that's a good league for Kelvin Benjamin. But if he's on your bench and you're never going to play him without an injury, I'm okay cutting him. I would rather have Sterling Shepard on my bench. But if you need Benjamin at certain points, I would say that I guess Aaron Jones has to go. So that's where I'd go. Half PPR need a flex. Bilal Powell, Royce Freeman, Cooper Kupp, Kenny Galladay, or pick up James White. I'm just looking over these options. So Royce Freeman I would consider over James White. I do like James White a lot this week. Like I'm playing him myself on a few of my teams. Like if I have James White on my roster, I'm probably playing him. And I should have just announced to you guys, it's either 17 or 18 leagues this year. I can't keep track, but this is like ones I have to actually manage my roster. I'm not talking about best ball. When I say I'm playing him in like all my lineups that I play in all PPR leagues. There's one standard league that I play in. That's it. So basically I always think about James White from a PPR aspect. So he's definitely better in PPR. This is a half PPR. Royce Freeman, you're just going to have some question marks, right? Because I do like him. Seattle, the matchup isn't as daunting as it was obviously in years past. They're down KJ Wright. They're starting their best linebacker essentially. But the thing is they said Devontae Booker is going to be involved. He's like the co-starter, essentially. Phillip Lindsay is going to be the third down back. So I really want to see this situation play out if I can. But I'm really debating James White there. It's between Freeman and James White. Collins or Howard PPR? I'm going to go with Jordan Howard. I love Alex Collins, guys, but I'm going to go with Jordan Howard here. I think Howard's just a safe play. Wilkins or Sammy Watkins. Again, this comes down to the guaranteed touches. Like Watkins is a big play waiting to happen, and it could happen at any point, right? But me personally, I'm going to go with Jordan Wilkins. I'm going to take the guessing work out of it, provided that Mac is out, and I think that he's going to be. I haven't seen official word just yet. All right. Do you play Antonio Brown in DFS today? I mean, in tournament lineups, I think he's fine because he's going to be under-owned because of this weather. Antonio Brown can get it done anywhere on the field, and it's like imagine yourself, like I always try and do this with my DFS teams. It's like when you think about this stuff, it's like, can you sit there and imagine watching your TV and like watching the Steelers and then Antonio Brown catches like, a 7-yard slant and then he takes it to the house. Would that surprise you? I know it wouldn't surprise me. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't think you could ever say that Antonio Brown's off the table in DFS. So I would play some Antonio Brown. I actually think I'm probably overexposed at this point because I haven't adjusted all my lineups, but I want to say I had like 23% exposure to him. All right. PPR flex, Burkhead or Robbie Anderson? Burkhead. Greg Olsen or Jack Doyle? Doyle. Doyle's a great play this week, guys. Last year against the Bengals with Vontaze Burfict on the field, who's arguably their best linebacker. He had 12 catches for 121 yards and a touchdown. It was the best PPR game all year by a tight end. Not just that week, like all year. So Jack Doyle's a good play. All right. Goodwin or Crowder? Give me Goodwin. The questions about Crowder are enough to make me sit him for someone like Goodwin. At least I know I've got some upside there. Mike, you should run for president. No, I shouldn't. You don't want that. Tyrod Taylor or Blake Bortles? Tyrod. So basically with the weather with Tyrod, some people are backing off of that game. I disagree when it comes to Tyrod because that dude can move. Like if you don't have footing against someone like Tyrod Taylor, good luck. Like it's going to be an issue for defenders. So I have no issue playing Tyrod, and I actually think that he might be a better play than Ben Roethlisberger with this weather. I think it just benefits his play more than it does. I don't think it hampers his play as much as it does Ben Roethlisberger. Flash Gordon or Sammy Watkins for wide receiver 2 in standard? Gordon. Yeah, Watkins, I mean, like the thing is, what's encouraging about Sammy Watkins is that he was playing the slot a lot throughout the preseason. The issue, we didn't see Patrick Mahomes target him a whole bunch, but I don't think that they're willing to play all their cards in the preseason either. I don't think that that's how we should look at it. So I think Sammy Watkins is a good dart throw, but still, he's got a tough matchup against the Chargers. He's going to see Casey Hayward in coverage an awful lot. That's never a good thing. So I would go with Gordon there. Alex Smith or Deshaun Watson? Guys, come on. That's Deshaun Watson. Like, it's easy this week. So I like Alex Smith from a value play in like season-long leagues, but he doesn't have a very good matchup this week in Arizona against that Cardinals defense. It's not very good. I'll go Deshaun Watson. On teams with Jordan Reed, do you keep a backup tight end? If so, who? It depends on how deep the rosters are. Like if you have a 6-man bench, probably not. But if you have like, an eight to 10-man bench, yeah, I guess I think actually Vernon Davis isn't a bad handcuff. Like it's a weird situation, but Vernon Davis is a great handcuff. If you want to add someone that could turn into a starter themselves, even without a Jordan Reed injury, I think Nick Vannett is awesome. I think so many people have overlooked Nick Vannett in drafts this year. If you don't know who Nick Vannett is, a lot of people might be asking themselves that. He's the Seahawks tight end. They drafted him in 2016, the 3rd round. He's been playing behind Jimmy Graham and Luke Wilson the last 2 years. And even though they grabbed Ed Dixon in free agency, I didn't like Ed Dixon. He's not even on the active roster. So Vannett's the guy. Okay. Now, after a slight water break. Okay. Here's the questions. This is the one that's tearing me apart, actually, guys. So, like, I have my own lineup decisions to make, obviously, this week. So, Tyrod, Case Keenum, Mitch Trubisky. I personally, with this decision, I probably would go with Tyrod Taylor just because of the rushing upside that he presents. But I don't think Trubisky's a bad play, guys. Like, I've talked about the Bears Packers and the fact that I think it's going to be a higher scoring game. People also underestimate Mitchell Trubisky's mobility because I want to say there were 3 games last year where he rushed for at least 50 yards. Now, granted, he probably took off running more than he typically would because there was no wide receivers getting open or tight ends. He's not going to have that issue this year against Green Bay, missing 2 linebackers. Their pass rush has kind of lacked the last few years. I think Clay Matthews has been deteriorating as a player as the time goes on. They have some new pieces in the secondary with the cornerbacks. There's going to be some miscommunications here, I believe. So I think that Mitch Trubisky is a decent play. I'd probably still go Tyrod though. It's just playing the matchups and like the stability that we know about them. I just think Tyrod presents a higher floor this week. But if you're looking for upside, I have no issue with you going Trubisky. Rex Burkhead or Kenny Stills for the flex, I'll go Burkhead. Like, again, he's going to get some guaranteed touches, and like the upside for Burkhead is so much higher than Kenny Stills. Stills doesn't have a great matchup, guys. I don't know if people realize that Tennessee's like getting better as a defense. Their linebackers are like the worst part of their team, which is why Mike Gesicki is like interesting. But Kenny Stills is going to match up with Adoree Jackson for the majority of the game. That's never a good thing. And if he goes to the other side of the field, he's going to match up with Malcolm Butler. Again, these are not good matchups for Kenny Stills. So, I mean, he's going to get some targets, which is fine for like a wide receiver 4 play, but I'm not excited about playing Kenny Stills this week. Corey Davis or Marquise Goodwin, standard. That's a really tough one because those guys I have like ranked right next to each other. I'd probably go Corey Davis just because I think he's a little bit more safe. The matchup is tough against Xavier Howard, but it's not as tough as Marquise Goodwin against Xavier Rhodes. I mean, Rhodes apparently is dinged up. I'm not saying Goodwin's a bad play considering like what we know, but it's in Minnesota. Minnesota is so good at home. I would go Corey Davis. Juju or Landry? Oh, that's a tough one, man. Like 2 guys in the same game, dealing with the weather conditions. Juju, oh man, that's really tough. I have those guys close. I'll go with Juju, just because like the matchup in the slot that he would have. I don't know who the Browns are starting in the slot. If it's Brian Body Calhoun, I don't know if they're playing him there or not. There's some question marks about the Browns cornerback trio, I should say, because Terrence Mitchell was apparently starting too, which is weird. So I'll go Juju. Landry's matchup against Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton, by the way, on the Steelers, he's like last year, he turned into one of the best slot corners in the game. So he's going to be covering Jarvis Landry an awful lot. That's the reason that I'm a little down on Landry. So I'd go Juju. Burkhead or Connor? Kupp or Sanders in a full PPR? Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders has a really good matchup, guys. The Seahawks are really desperate at cornerback, and Sanders has been playing the slot an awful lot in order to get Cortland Sutton onto the field. So Emmanuel Sanders has shown a connection with Case Keenum. And if you look at him and Adam Thielen last year, it's very possible that that Case Keenum just prefers to throw to slot receivers more than he does on the perimeter. So I do like Sanders this week. I would play him. Olsen or Doyle? I think I answered that one already. Actually, no, it was Olsen or Ertz. No, not Ertz. Olsen or Burden. Anyways, Olsen or Doyle? I would play Doyle this week. I'm a huge fan of Doyle. I think I have him ranked as a top 6 tight end. All right, so here it is. Breaking news. The Colts are going to be without Marlon Mack and Anthony Costanzo. So that's pretty big. Costanzo is the starting left tackle, and that's never a good thing. Andrew Luck, there's a lot of question marks about him, but the interior of the offensive line is what they kind of replaced the both guard positions this offseason. So I do think that Jordan Wilkins should be okay for this game. But obviously, like I said, Marlon Mack out. He's going to get the majority of touches. I'll play Jordan Wilkins like a flex play, RB3. I don't think he's as safe as some people think, but I think he's a decent play. Chris Carson or Kenyon Drake with the weather in standard. What's the weather situation in Miami? I haven't looked at that. But yeah, Chris Carson has a tough matchup against Denver. Kenyon Drake has a tough matchup against Tennessee. These are both running backs that I'm trying to avoid, especially in DFS. But if I had to pick one of them, I'll go at Drake, just because Chris Carson has better competition on the roster with Rashad Penny. Very high chance of rain in Miami. Thank you for the update, producer Chris. So the rain, I mean, that's going to affect it. But the thing, like I said, Tennessee is really good against the run. They've been a top 5 run defense in each of the last 2 years. They've added, it was Dontari Poe or no, Benny Logan. Benny Logan went to their team. Dontari Poe went to Carolina. So yeah, anyways, they're like literally the defensive front is just monsters. The linebacking core is iffy, but again, I'd go Kenyon Drake here just because there's less talent on the roster. All right, full PPR, safe to start Hogan and Gronk. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like Gronk is a must play, obviously, and I think Hogan is a solid play. I mean, they're going to have 3 wide receivers active for this game. I don't think they're going to make Chad Hansen or Amara Darboh active after they've been with the team for a couple days. I don't think so. So yeah, I do think that's safe enough. All right, I got to scroll down here. James White or Jordan Wilkins, standard scoring. They're both, I mean, I'd probably go James White here. I mean, I don't like that it's standard. I would much prefer have James White in a PPR format, but I mean, think about it this way. The reason I like James White so much is because when you look at the Texans defense, with JJ Watt back, with Whitney Merciless back, with Jadeveon Clowney, they're bringing the pressure, right? Like that's I don't care if you have a good offensive line, you're going to face some pressure against these guys, right? So knowing that Tom Brady doesn't have his starting left tackle and right tackle from last year, knowing that he lost Isaiah Wynn in the preseason, he was supposed to be a starting guard. Their offensive line is not very good right now. And I think that like Tom Brady's going to have to get the ball out relatively quick, which is why I love James White here. They're without Julian Edelman, so they essentially need a slot receiver. I think Rex Burkhead's going to mix into that role too. But I mean, if you go back to last year, I think there were 7 games last year where James White saw 7 or more targets. Like he's used as like a wide receiver. And there was one game where he saw 12 targets. So I wouldn't put it past to see like James White with 8 to 10 targets in this game. And I think that could amount to some serious fantasy production. Whereas Jordan Wilkins, again, he's going to get the touches. I just worry about the quality of those touches. Amari Cooper or Golden Tate in a standard? Oh, that's a good question. I like the little boom, like the little emojis on the side. So I think Amari Cooper is going to be underrated this week, considering they're playing a tough Rams defense. But if you guys paid attention last year, Amari Cooper, the 200-yard game and 2 touchdown game that he had, it was against Marcus Peters, the guy that everybody talks so good about. I think Marcus Peters is a fine NFL cornerback. I don't think he's shut down by any means. I think that Aqib Talib is slowly falling down in terms of like his career arc. So I don't think the matchup against the Rams is like the worst. However, Golden Tate is matching up with Buster Screen against the Jets. Like that's the matchup to target for the Lions. So Golden Tate's the start. Jamal Williams, Jordan Howard, James Conner, pick 2. I hate you guys. Seriously. Like this is like, these are the questions that like drive me nuts because like, it's so hard for me. If I had these guys and I had to choose, it would be tough for me to pick, right? I like Jamal Williams. I like Jordan Howard. I like James Conner. Oh man. I'm guessing me personally, I probably have to sit Jamal Williams. I don't love it though. I really don't want to sit Jamal Williams. It's Jamal Williams or James Conner that's on the bench. Like I want you to go with your gut in this one. Those are so close. I have them both in like that RB15 range in my rankings. But James Conner, the thing is with James Conner, his matchup is so much tougher than people are making it out to be. The weather should help him because he's a tough guy to tackle. Like he runs really hard. He's looked awesome in the preseason. So I understand why Conner is like, and then Jamal Williams going against the Bears, improved defense. We don't know how much Roquan Smith is going to play. We don't know if Khalil Mack is going to play every down. There's a lot of question marks, right? So it's tough, man. Go with your gut on that one. Corey Davis or Robbie Anderson? I would go with Corey Davis. Josh Gordon or Mike Williams? Oh, come on, guys. It's Josh Gordon. By the way, Mike Williams, I like Mike Williams as a bench stash, but I would not play him anywhere this week because we don't know when he's going to come on the field. In the preseason, he was not playing with the starters. So it's very possible that 3 wide receiver sets are Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams, and Travis Benjamin. That's very possible. 2 wide receiver sets are absolutely not going to have Mike Williams in them. So I worry about it a little bit here. Like the cornerbacks are terrible in Kansas City. I'm not going to say they're not, but we don't know his snap count. Like it's very possible that Mike Williams plays like 20 snaps, and that's always a problem. Josh Gordon is off the injury report. I don't care that Hugh Jackson said that he's not going to start him. I don't care, because Hugh Jackson needs a coach to save his job. And if you want to win football games, Josh Gordon's on the field. He's probably not going to play the first snap, but he's going to be out there. Amari Cooper or Jordan Howard, full PPR, Jordan Howard. Full PPR start 2, Burkhead, Jamal Williams, or LaShawn McCoy. I'd probably bench Burkhead there and eliminate some questions. McCoy is borderline with Burkhead, but being it's a PPR, McCoy's going to catch some passes in that game. Pick 2 wide receivers, Demaryius Thomas, Keelan Cole, Jarvis Landry, Brandon Cooks. All right. So there's no way that I'm going to bench Brandon Cooks against Oakland. So that's not going to happen. So it comes down to which player am I going to go with, Demaryius Thomas, Keelan Cole, or Jarvis Landry? I'm going Demaryius Thomas here, guys. So the Seahawks are essentially down to one cornerback, Shaquille Griffin. He's the only one that they have on the roster. And if he goes and plays Richard Sherman's old position on the field at left cornerback, that means he's going to see Cortland Sutton more than he's going to see Demaryius Thomas. So Demaryius Thomas is going to be up against a rookie 5th round pick, I want to say. That's who they're starting. I can't remember his name right now. But Demaryius Thomas is turning into a good start, as is Emmanuel Sanders, obviously. So I would go Brandon Cooks and Demaryius Thomas. Will rain hurt Big Ben? Yes, it will. Dalton instead? Yes. I actually would have played Dalton instead anyways. But Ben has sucked on the road, guys. Hold on. I'm going to pull up the stat just so I can know it. All right. So Ben Roethlisberger, this is over 5 years. So this is over a 30 game sample size, over 30 games. Actually, it's 38 games to be exact. On the road, he's averaged 268 yards, 1.29 touchdowns, and 0.92 interceptions. That equals 18.5 fantasy points. At home, he's averaged 314 yards, 2.54 touchdowns, and 0.89 interceptions, 27.1. We're talking 9 points. It's over 8.5 points that Ben Roethlisberger scores more at home. So he struggled on the road, knowing there's wind, knowing there's rain. Yes, I am going to try and fade Ben if I can. So Dalton is a great play. He's indoors against a bad Colts defense. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons to like him. Start Juju or Tate? I'd play Tate. Have PPR Landry or Marquise Goodwin. That one I'd probably go Landry. It's not a great matchup against Mike Hilton, but Marquise Goodwin is more of a boomer bust play where it's the upside is there for sure with Rhodes not being 100%, but I'd go Landry there. PPR need, sorry about that. PPR need 2, Riddick, Josh Gordon, Mike Williams, Godwin. I like how you capitalize Josh Gordon and Godwin because those are the two guys I'd play. I'd play Josh Gordon and Chris Godwin. It's very possible that, so if Mike Evans, which it seems like it's very likely that he's going to see Marshawn Lattimore in coverage. By the way, Marshawn Lattimore is the guy he punched last year, and he got suspended for. So it's those two are going to be going at it. Chris Godwin, meanwhile, is going to see Ken Crawley in coverage. It's not a great matchup, but it's not bad either. And Godwin is a first-rate wide receiver. Riddick, he's boring to me. I don't like Riddick very much. Let's see. Flex PPR, Alex Collins, Michael Crabtree, or Corey Davis. Alex Collins. All right. I thought there was another update. Not so much. All right. Full point PPR, start 2 of 3. James Conner, Juju, Lamar Miller. Give me the 2 running backs. Again, guys, if there's a question between running back and wide receiver that's not blatantly clear, I'm usually going to go with the running back just because I'll take the guaranteed touches. And Lamar Miller's obviously got those. The road split with Benton is real. It absolutely is. And I can't ignore it. I can't explain it. And that's what some people say that if you can't explain a stat, then it's not real. Well, I think I call BS on that because we're talking about a 38 game sample size. Connor or Mixon for the flex? Oh, I'm playing Joe Mixon, man. I know that people are going to come at me with that one. People are going to be like, what are you talking about? You have to play Connor. But Joe Mixon, if Joe Mixon doesn't play well in this game, I'm really concerned about Joe Mixon. That's what it comes down to. He has a fantastic matchup against the Colts who really just don't have the talent to hang. Is it possible that Andy Dalton throws for, multiple touchdowns and we're sitting here where's Mixon? I think there's going to be plenty of time in the second half for Mixon to do his damage. And Mixon might even score a touchdown as a receiver. So I like Mixon. I would play him over James Conner. Dalton or Luck? Dalton. Robbie Anderson or Chris Thompson in a half PPR? I'll go with Chris Thompson. I'm not especially excited about playing Chris Thompson this week because I still don't know if he's there mentally. It seems like he's having some issues getting over the leg, and they've talked about it, and he's been on the injury report, and I've watched interviews with the kid, and I really hope he gets it together because he's a fun player to watch. I'm not excited about him, but again, Robbie Anderson matchup with Darius Slay is not a great one. It's Sam Darnold's first start. I just don't know what to expect there. We don't know if Robbie Anderson's going to be his favorite receiver. It could be Quincy Enunwa. I don't know. So I just don't want to trust that if I don't have to. So I'll go Thompson. Tyreek, Hogan, Jamal Williams, or Connor. Standard. Dude, Jamie, what is happening here? Like, when you have to choose between these guys, you're going to win your matchup. I'm sorry. If you're debating on benching some of these guys, you're going to win. I don't think it really even matters. Tyreek Hill's matchup is obviously upgraded with Joey Bosa being out for the Chargers. That means Patrick Mahomes is going to have more time to look downfield. That's what that means. Chris Hogan, fantastic play against Houston. They just don't have the cornerbacks to hang. I mean, they were terrible against the pass last year over the second half. Their pass rush should be better, but I like them. Pick your poison, dude. Like, seriously, these are all good starts. Like, I can't suggest benching like any of these guys. It's so tough. Corey Davis or Doug Baldwin. That one's tough. If it's a PPR, I'll go with Baldwin. If it's a standard, I'll go Corey Davis. Ben or Luck, 6-point touchdowns. I will go with. I'm going to go with Andrew Luck because there is a unknown, sure. But knowing the weather, knowing Ben's struggles on the road, there's some unknown there as well. So, all right. Yep. Sony Michel ruled out for the Pats. I think we knew that was coming. High tags, love you. I love you too, Matt. Trey Burton or Kyle Rudolph? Rudolph's not a bad play this week against the 49ers. He's really not. So this one's really tough for me because the reason I say that is because obviously Burton, the first game, the matchup is good against Green Bay, that the linebackers that they're down, the new starting safety that they have because they lost Morgan Burnett. But Rudolph against the 49ers, man, that's tough. Reuben Foster's out for them. This one's really tough. I have a trouble with that one, James. Man, I would probably go with Burton just because I think he's the more sure thing because we don't know what Rudolph's role is going to be in the offense. We don't know if Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen are going to out-target him. Rudolph, by the way, when you take away Pat Shurmur, I didn't even say Pat Shurmur, when you take away Norv Turner, when he was there as a coordinator, Kyle Rudolph, those were his best years. So last year we saw his targets dip. I don't know if that happens again this year. It's just tough to say. So I'll go with Burton. I know it's scary, but that's what I would do. Mike Evans or Juju? Mike Evans. Mike Evans should get targeted. It's a tough matchup for sure. I'm not going to say it's not, but I would still play him over Juju. Let's see, Dalton or Alex Smith? Dalton. Guys, basically, if you have a question to Andy Dalton or someone else, I'm going to say Andy Dalton because you're not going to ask me if you start Andy Dalton or Tom Brady, but I have Dalton, I think, as a top 6 quarterback this week. It's just hard for me not to like him. Alex Smith or Andrew Luck? I would go with Luck. Alex Smith, there's going to be weeks to play him. I don't think this is one of them. I think Arizona's defense is pretty legit. They are down Marcus Golden. He's not going to play, which helps. But again, I don't know. Mahomes or Bortles? Thanks for all the stats and reasoning. Oh, yeah, of course, Jason. So I'd go Patrick Mahomes here just because, I know what the risk is with him. I know that he's like a Jay Cutler-esque quarterback. And guys, yes, he is a Jay Cutler-esque quarterback that plays for a better coach than Jay ever had. So I think Andy Reid, I think he played it right by going with Alex Smith last year. So many people were calling for Mahomes to be the starter. Andy Reid's a smart dude. He's done an excellent job in this league. He tends to build with the players around him. I've called him before a chameleon coach. What I mean by that, he adjusts to the players around him. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to benefit from that. Did he struggle throughout times of the preseason? Yeah, there were some bad throws in there. Did he struggle through training camp? Yeah, a little bit. He's going to have some bad throws. It's going to happen. You're going to deal with some interceptions, but you're also going to get some ridiculous plays. He's got legs just as much as Bortles does. I'm gonna go Mahomes here, man. Bortles looked like crap throughout the preseason, and Bortles, to be honest with you, he's been a streaky quarterback throughout his career. If you go back to 2015, he was great. Not great, but he was good. He produced a couple fantasy relevant wide receivers. 2016, bad. 2017, he got better. He was pretty decent. And then we come to this year and he just looks bad again. So it's just tough for me to trust him. Let's see. Deion Lewis or Carlos Hyde? Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde or McCoy? I will go with Carlos Hyde. Ingram or Kittle? I think it's got to be Ingram there. I'm not going out of my way to play Ingram because a lot of people think, if the wide receivers are going to be shut down, Evan Ingram's going to go off because the Jags can't defend the tight end. That's not true, man. Last year, the Jags actually did a really good job at defending the tight end. Their linebackers are really good. Safeties are decent. So yeah, I mean, I like Ingram more than Kittle just because Kittle, we don't know if he's going to be somewhat limited. He is going to be sharing time. He was in a timeshare last year, knowing he missed the last 3 weeks of the preseason and training camp. It's hard for me to believe they put him in there as an every down player against Minnesota in week 1. It's not a terrible matchup, but I'd go Ingram. Randall Cobb or Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders for sure. That's where I would go. Trey Burton or Kyle Rudolph. All right, answered that one. Juju or Keelan Cole in standard? Juju. All right, let's see. Burkhead versus White. Yeah, that's a tough one. So in a PPR format, I would actually consider James White over Burkhead, but it's close. I'll probably lean Burkhead on this question, but it's closer than you would think, especially in a PPR format. AP or Rex Burkhead? Burkhead, 0.2 points per reception. So AP, I actually think he's going to look better at the start of the year than people think he's going to, but not against Arizona. Arizona's like their run defense was really, really, really good last year. I think it was like 3.44 yards per carry, if I'm not mistaken. And on top of that, Steve Wilkes is the new head coach. He comes from the Carolina coaching tree under Ron Rivera. He was the assistant head coach to Ron Rivera. So knowing Rivera was like dominant in terms of run defense at Carolina, it's tough to say that it's going to be a big downgrade to Steve Wilkes. So I think that Wilkes is I think their run defense is going to be good. So again, that game's on the road as well. I don't think there's any ill will of AP towards the Cardinals because they traded for him, obviously. But Burkhead's the one I'd go. Joe Mixon or Dalvin Cook? Mixon. I'm playing Mixon again because if I have Joe Mixon and if I'm not going to play him this week, trade him. That's how I feel about it. The matchup doesn't get much better than this. Full PPR flex, Carson or Gordon. That's where it gets close. I'd probably go Carson just because of the weather situation, the guaranteed touches for Carson. Lamar Miller or Burkhead. I'd go Lamar Miller, but it's close. Let's see. Vanette or Burton. Burton. I like Nick Vanette as a streamer. Don't get me wrong, but don't play him over proven players. Let's see. Josh Gordon, Garcon, or Montgomery in the flex spot. Half PPR. I'll go with Josh Gordon. I think Ty Montgomery's closer than people think, but I'll go Josh Gordon. OBJ or Michael Thomas? What? Is that a real question? Are you benching one of these guys? Because I don't know if I could ever bench either of them. It's Michael Thomas, by the way. I have Michael Thomas. I'm tempted to put him as my number one receiver. Like he's going to dominate that secondary. The Bucs don't have an answer. Vernon Hargreaves is going to match up with him. Brent Grimes is out for this game. They're going to be starting. I don't know if it's MJ Stewart or Carlton Davis. These are two rookies. Like they were second or third round draft picks, but they're not like great players yet, and especially against Michael Thomas. The dude's like so good. The Saints, I think their team total is like 29.5. They're going to score some points, and Michael Thomas is going to go he's going to go off this week. I love Michael Thomas. Doug Baldwin versus Rex Burkhead. Give me Burkhead. Again, there's risk with both players. Baldwin has a tough matchup against Chris Harris. Burkhead, we don't know how many snaps he's going to play, but I do assume being they're only going with 3 running backs active, I think Burkhead is going to get more work than people think. Andrew Luck or Kirk Cousins, 6-point passing touchdowns. I'll probably go Cousins here. San Francisco, it's not. So here's the reason I go Cousins. I just think it's safer. Andrew Luck has higher upside this week. However, I say Cousins because you said 6-point passing touchdown. So if Cousins gets 2 touchdowns, that's fine. He's going to give you enough of what you need. It's very possible that Andrew Luck doesn't throw any. I do think he does, but Kirk Cousins against San Francisco, they're not going to allow a whole lot of points to the 49ers, which tells me that the game script isn't going to be great for Kirk Cousins to kind of like have a bonkers day for his first start with the Vikings. So yeah, I would go Cousins there just because I think he's safer. I don't think you need to take the chances in week 1. Jarvis Landry or Mike Williams, half PPR. Landry. Jared Goff versus Tyrod. Jared Goff. Jared Goff I have as a top 10 play. Josh Gordon, Carlos Hyde, Deion Lewis, PPR. Give me Hyde. All right, I'm working my way down. Cup or Goodwin? If it's a PPR, I would go with Cup. If it's a standard league, I might take my chances with Goodwin. Just because I want that big play. Amari Cooper or Corey Davis? I'd play Amari. Geronimo Allison or Crowder in a PPR? Oof, that's like borderline. I go Crowder there, but yeah, I'll go Crowder. I just want to see Allison, how he's used. Like, I don't think he's going to match up with Prince Amukamara the most of the time. And Amukamara is actually a pretty good cornerback. But usually Geronimo Allison is going to be matched up with second tier corners. So this is just not one of those weeks. Tate or Jamal Williams, non-PPR. Man, I really do like Golden Tate this week, but I can't sit Jamal Williams, like a guy who's going to get 15 to 20 touches. I can't, even if it's a somewhat tough matchup. I got to go Jamal Williams, even though I like Golden Tate so much. Let's see. Cousins or Wilson? So close. I'll I have Russell Wilson. And by the way, why do you have both Cousins and Russell Wilson? I hope this is a dynasty league that you have both of those. Because if not, then trade one, like trade Cousins. But I will go with Wilson. I just like that. I like him better as a quarterback. It's neither of them. Oh man, this is so tough. Because Wilson has struggled over the first week or two of the season, over the last few years. The matchup's not great against Denver. I don't know. That's so tough. I'll go Wilson, but I don't feel great about it. Mike Williams or Keelan Cole? Keelan Cole. Again, we don't know how many snaps Mike Williams is going to play. James Conner or Lamar Miller? I would take James Conner in that one. It's close, especially in the PPR format. A-Rob, Fitzgerald, Crowder, Marvin Jones. Need 2 in a PPR. You're playing Fitzgerald. Like you don't want to bench him. And then but it comes down to Marvin Jones or Allen Robinson. Marvin Jones' matchup against Tremaine Johnson is going to be pretty tough. Morris Claiborne is also on that team. So I'm going to go with Allen Robinson and Larry Fitzgerald in that one. Pick 2 out of Baldwin, Amari, James Conner. I would bench Doug Baldwin. That's what I would do there. Jamal Williams or James White and a half PPR. Jamal Williams. I like James White, but not as much as Jamal Williams. Tyrod or go pick up Flacco. 2 quarterback league. Tyrod for sure. Goff or Big Ben. Goff. Start 2 of 3. Goodwin, Burkhead, John Ross. 2 quarterback, 2 flex league. So Burkhead for sure. Yeah, I'll go Burkhead and Goodwin. With Xavier Rhodes less than 100%, I think Goodwin could surprise a little bit. I've moved him up just a little bit. John Ross is a good play too, but we don't know if he's going to get more than like 4 targets. Goodwin will. Is it crazy to start Royce Freeman and Booker in the flex? Yeah, kind of. I mean, you just said 16-team league and a half PPR. I mean, it depends on the other options for sure, but I do think it's somewhat crazy because it's not a great matchup. I mean, Seattle they're not like the same old Seattle, but I don't think they're like going to be a team that people just walk over. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't like Booker very much at all. So I'd start Freeman for sure. Booker in the flex, it's like, Duke Johnson or Randall Cobb, full PPR. I'll go Duke. If they do throw the ball, I could see some checkdowns to him. All right. For those of you, I'm going to take 1 second and just tell you guys again, I announced at the beginning of the show, and if you weren't here, we do have a new feature on the site. I shouldn't say new because we keep improving it, but people don't know about it. You go to fantasypros.com/NFL/game day. And what it is it's a red zone for your fantasy team. Basically what it does is it knows you put in it takes your teams, puts them in there, and it gives you a feed on what your players are doing. You no longer have to search through Yahoo or ESPN or whatever it is that you're looking like, oh, what did my player do? Oh, what just happened? You don't have to wonder about that anymore. It shows you exactly what your players are doing as it's happening. You put on Red Zone and you have that or whatever you want to watch, and you have it side by side on your computer or your mobile app. It's awesome. Seriously, guys, you have to check it out. Again, fantasypros.com/NFL/game day. You guys will love that. Like seriously, I got a DM from Scott Fish today, basically saying like, I didn't know this existed. This is awesome. Half PPR, Jamal Williams or James Conner. That one's come up a few times in some way or another. So, I mean, to answer that question one more time, I don't think you can go wrong with either player. I'd probably go with James Conner, I guess, just because his matchup with the weather, I think it upgrades it just that much to put him over Jamal Williams, but it's really close. Crabtree or DJ Moore? Oh, it's Crabtree. I don't like DJ Moore this week. I don't like DJ Moore in general. I don't honestly like. I had him on a team. I just dropped him for I can't remember who, just because I had to pick up someone to start for Big Ben, considering the weather. But I dropped DJ Moore. I don't really care to own him right now. I mean, until he proves me that he's going to be something. But right now, there's just too much competition for targets there. Fitzgerald versus Hogan DFS cash. Oh, man, that's tough. I think they're both in similar territory. Hogan presents more upside for sure, but Fitzgerald is just like, that's tough. I'd probably go Fitzgerald in cash, to be honest. It's close though. It's really close. Kittle or Clay? I would go with Clay. At least you know he's going to get targets. They're going to fall behind in that game. It's supposedly going to be raining out there in Baltimore, so there's some questions there. Stills or Crabtree and a half PPR? I would go with Crabtree. I don't feel great about Crabtree this week. I'm not like in love with him, but I do think there's a good chance he scores a touchdown. Lewis or Burkhead? Burkhead. Mike, I would buy a microwave in hell from you. That's awesome. I've never heard that one. That's a new one, but thank you, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys. Thank you guys for showing up to this. I'm having a blast. Hopefully you are too. We only have a couple minutes left, so I'm gonna try and knock some of these out. Montgomery or Wilkins, PPR. I would play Wilkins. We know he's gonna get more touches. Josh Gordon, Peyton Barber, Duke Johnson, half PPR. Give me Barber. I think he scores against the Saints. Steelers defense or Chargers. Go with Steelers. The Chargers defense without Bosa is not going to look great. Half PPR, flex Duke Johnson versus Peyton Barber versus Randall Cobb. I'd go Peyton Barber. Dalton or Cousins? Dalton. I like Dalton better. Tags versus Bobby, fist fight. Tags. Dalton or Goff, PPR. I go Dalton, but Goff's a good start. Stills or Hearns in a PPR. I think Hearns has more upside, actually. I'd probably play Hearns of those two. Let's see. Cobb or Geronimo? I'd play Cobb over Geronimo this week. Again, Geronimo's matchup against Prince Amukamara isn't great. Cobb, it's not a great matchup for Cobb in the slot either. Bryce Callahan's pretty good, but still, Aaron Rodgers' ball placement is second to none. Amari Cooper, Baldwin, Burkhead, start two. I would sit Doug Baldwin of those. It's my 10th birthday, football and cake, Shepard or Wilkins in flex full PPR. Well, happy birthday, Marley. And Shepard or Wilkins in the flex. I would go with Wilkins here. Just take the guaranteed touches. I think that Sterling Shepard could have a better game than people think. I noticed that I'm a lot higher than him than most people in the ECR. But again, I would take the guaranteed touches with Wilkins. Sit one, James White, Cooper Kupp, or Corey Davis in a half PPR. I'd probably sit Kupp. McKinnon or Rawls? That's not a question. Like, John, seriously, you need to keep up because Rawls is not on a roster, I don't think. I think he was cut by the Jets and McKinnon's dead. So that's not great. He's not really dead. He's on IR. But Randall Cobb versus Tyler Lockett, Randall Cobb, Doug Baldwin or Marshawn Lynch, full PPR. Give me Lynch. Again, I don't like Baldwin's matchup. Do I think he's going to completely bomb? No, but I could see a game of 4 catches for 50 yards. It's not going to be a great game. Give me Lynch. Jordan Reed or Trey Burton. I would go Burton. Wilkins or Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams. Full point PPR flex. Emmanuel Sanders, Deion Lewis, or Chris Thompson. Give me Emmanuel Sanders this week. Baldwin or Burkhead. Burkhead. Let's see. Frank Gore or CJ Anderson. Is that real? I guess I'd go CJ Anderson because I don't think Frank Gore should be owned. They're both they're guys. I think you could do better on the waiver wire, honestly. Kenyon Drake or Jamal Williams, PPR. I'd go Jamal Williams. Adam Thielen or Connor, PPR. Give me Connor. It's not a bad matchup for Thielen. I prefer the guaranteed touches between those. Lamar Miller or Lamar Williams or Jamal Williams. It's tough when you say Williams. There's so many names going through my head. But if it's Jamal Williams, I'd play him over Lamar Miller. Should I pick up Dalton starting Luck at the moment? Yeah, I personally have Dalton over Luck. Doug Baldwin or Allen Robinson. I would play Allen Robinson. Corey Davis, Rashard Matthews, or Jamison Crowder for flex in a full PPR. Give me Corey Davis. PPR, Stills, Burkhead, or Duke Johnson. This one's Burkhead for sure. All right. And I'm going to take just a couple more. Ben or Trubisky. You know what? That's actually pretty funny. I've actually been debating that one myself. I grabbed Trubisky. That actually might have been who I actually dropped DJ Moore for because I thought I was going to start Trubisky over Roethlisberger, depending on the weather and how it turned out. Man, I'm starting to lean Trubisky though, if I'm being honest. Vikings over Saints. No, I would play the Saints defense for sure. Lynch or White in standard? In standard, I'd go Lynch. All right, one more. Waiver wire pickup, Geronimo Allison or Kenny Golladay? Geronimo Allison. I think he's one that should be owned for sure. All right. Guys, this was fun. My voice is done. I seriously, we're going to do this every single week for you guys. We hope you had a blast. Make sure to check out all the tools we have at Fantasy Pros. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And if you guys still do have a question, make sure to tune in. Check out the primer. I put that together for you guys. So I know I can't get to every question. I really do. But when I write the primer, I do that because it's my way of answering every question without going back. But basically, you type in week 1 primer. On Google, whatever you want to do, and it answers every question because I talk a paragraph about every player from every single game, and it can kind of give you my insight on that stuff. But this is the Sunday morning where we'll be talking about injuries, how it affects those players, the weather, things like that, DFS questions if you guys have them. But this is gonna be a blast, man. We hope to see you guys again next week. But that's gonna wrap this one up. So until next time, lights out.